So in terms of then thinking about transitions and how people are working together, we need to be able to think about what's happening. One of the things we found, for example, with parents sometimes are not conscious of their own transitions. They sort of think, well, I'm an adult, I can deal with when my child's moving. And I'm going to ask them the questions. How many of you are parents here who've had children going through different stages? Okay. Do you remember the day you took your child into nursery and the child hugs you and wants you to stay there, put the bag on the hook and don't go yet, stay with me, couple? And what happened when they went to primary school? Did it stay the same? P1 maybe, first day? By the time they're at P3, what happens? It's like, could you hug us at home, please? And maybe it's just my children, maybe not everybody's, but that's what happens. And by the time of secondary school, not sure I did. And there are some people whose children are here and they've been to university, so I'll probably ask them, how did you feel when your daughter went to university?
Great.
And what we find is that even at university, when parents come on open days, you can see their eager faces because they're interested in what's happening. But actually, I think their children are very keen for them to, that's it, I'm okay now. But it's that sort of thing. And what's happening there is, there is a visible transition for the child happening, but there is an invisible one for you because your identity is changing. And not only is your identity changing, what's happening is everybody's expecting you to understand all sorts of unspoken rules. So, for example, when you're a nursery child's parent, like I said, it's okay to go into the room, stay with your child. When you go to pick up your child, somebody will tell you how your child has been throughout the day, what's been happening. And then when you go to primary school, first day you can go inside, but after that, you're not going inside. And from data we collected with parents whose children went to P1 or just started P1, they would say things like, I meet somebody for once and am I meant to trust my child with them? And society is not like that. We don't give our child to somebody just because they're a teacher. I've seen them for the first time, why should I leave my child with them? Or parents would feel like it's a black hole, I don't know what happened. One was really interesting, was a mother noticed that the child was saying every time she asked, what did you have for lunch? I had baked potato. What do you have for lunch today? Baked potato. And that carried on, and she sort of thought, this doesn't seem right. We don't really like baked potato so much. And then she found out he didn't know how to order lunch. So all of those things are happening where parents feel sometimes not able to help the child, or there are different things happening for them. Their identity is changing, but they also feel helpless because in the past they would have been able to help the child. Anyways, along with that, what we found was that, I'm sure you've all heard about a lot about parental participation, parental involvement, and we've got the Act as well, Parental Involvement Act. But what we found during our analysis, and Beth sitting there, she did this work with me as well, we were analysing, we were looking at the Act, but then we were also looking at what was happening in practice. And what we find is that involvement is more, even legally, is more about information giving rather than full participation. And even if you look at literature, the participation is about either the parent being involved in the school or the parent being involved with the child at home and interacting with them at home. But what our transition research found was that a really good aspect of parental participation was happening that everybody was missing out on, and that was parents supporting parents. That came out very clearly during our transition research, that parents were saying the best source of support and information they had were other parents. But it seemed like that resource was missed out and schools weren't tapping into it. So another thing to think about is how we form this community of supporting each other. And in a lot of disability work we do see that there are parent buddies. And for children there are pupil buddies. There would be a P1 would have a P6 or P7, and S1 would have an S4 buddy, but we don't think about buddies for parents, and maybe we need to think about it. Do we have family buddies? So when we ask children to start at school and think about, well, as John said, I've come from India and then Japan and then here. I didn't experience the Scottish education system apart from professionally. I didn't experience it personally. So for a parent who's come from a totally different educational system, they might find it even more difficult. Imagine a parent who has had a very bad experience themselves as a student or a young person, how they feel. Some of the research we were doing where parents were saying things like, I'm scared to go into the school. I'm not surprised my child's scared too. Or when I started secondary school, I changed schools twice. It's not surprising that my child wants to change school as well. Or I find the school a maze. Of course my child must be scared as well. So it's their life experiences are having an impact on how they are going to be dealing with the experiences of their children or the transition experiences. So all that support becomes quite important for the parents and obviously professionals as well, because I think sometimes we do forget the support the profession, sorry, I dropped it now, support the parents might need as well.